The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0. From Latinos to Latinos. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois, with over 20,000 copies of each edition. El Sueño Americano is available in all versions: El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news, the best analysis on region, state and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics.
Hello and welcome to today's political talk show. This is Deb Gordills and I'm your host here from 5 to 6 p.m. A show that's heard throughout Chicago, Hammond, Indiana, and Southeast Wisconsin. I want to thank all the listeners and, of course, the sponsors for allowing us to have this show, which is a Republican-leaning center to the right, but definitely always sort of a conservative message of how important life is. Why we support life and we're against abortions, and why we believe in the Second Amendment right guaranteed to us under the Constitution, which is always under attack, especially here in the Midwest, here in Illinois, and specifically in Chicago. The show comes from Chicago. We should never underestimate the importance of messaging the conservative message over the airways to people, especially in the city of Chicago, which is always thought of as predominantly a liberal city and a Democrat city. And the truth is that although it is Democrat controlled in terms of the political party, which of course votes liberal on every social issue you can think of, there are lots of conservative people, lots of conservative African Americans in the city of Chicago, lots of Hispanic conservatives in Chicago. And there is an important need to allow this group to understand that their unity, their shared values, is an area where they can become empowered and look at each candidate and demand of each candidate to declare what party they're from. Recently, the chairman of the Republican Party stated that the Republican Party in America is a pro-life, anti-abortion party. And so if you believe in God at any level, and you believe that He created life, and He calls the shots, then it's imperative that you not vote for a Democrat candidate. Because every time you vote for a political party that votes against God, you in fact are voting against God. You, by your actions, are supporting and elevating a group of persons, in this case a political party, that in fact tries to bring down the church, tries to bring down God and His laws. And so at a time, here we are, 2014, when nobody should be talking about religion and politics. Well, that's exactly what we do on the show, because they go hand in hand. At least in America, they go hand in hand. Separation of church and state was never intended by the state to get rid of the church in matters of overall law, overall democracy. That was never the intention. And so we need to reevaluate today when we look at the political parties and we look at the direction that America is going in, is because the direction that America seems to be going in is not the direction from where it came from. It wasn't the direction or the spirited intent of the founding fathers. And it is very important that we understand that America is going in the wrong direction, because it's going in the direction where all the immigrants who came to America escaped. Everyone who's in America today, your grandparents, great-grandparents, or you yourself today are here in America because of how it was created, of what the spirit of the founding fathers were about, the freedom that you have here. So to go in a direction where that freedom is jeopardized or minimized, which is the direction that the political party of the Democrats is taking us into, you have to stop and say, maybe I, as a Democrat, no longer support the direction that my political party that I've supported all my life, that they're going in, and maybe it's time to look at another party. And if there were other strong parties, I'd lead you there. I mean, the Libertarians aren't, far from being the strongest third party in America. But you'd have to look at maybe the Republican Party, because that is the only viable option that you have as a Democrat who might be disenchanted with the direction that their party is taking. My next 3 segments of the show are going to be taped programming of some of the details on how the political parties play out in Cook County and in Chicago, some of the things that we need to look at. One of those guests on the show is Scott Davis, who is a libertarian, who is a Republican, but he's got libertarian-leaning views, and he talks about the challenges that come with trying to make things happen here in the city. And so I want to thank all of you who have been listening and tuning in, and thank you for your comments and responses and your phone calls of support. That's very important. And so messaging is extremely important. And we need, as the Republican Party, and we who work to bring conservatives into the Republican Party, and conservatives who are in the Democratic Party, need to know that messaging, we all know messaging is important, need to know that there are some media outlets that put microphones in front of persons or organizations or groups that do not represent the spirited intent of the Republican Party. And I want to go back to that, and that's called the Minutemen. Do you guys remember the Minutemen? The Minutemen was a group organized and led by a woman named Susanna Polito. It was she was Hispanic or of Texan descent or something, or she was from Arizona or something like that. At any rate, it was a message that was, I believe, that the Minutemen organization was fabricated, that they were just put together from Democrats who wanted to take down the Republican image in the eyes of Latinos by creating an organization called the Minutemen. Because if the Minutemen was truly a Republican organization, they would still be around. If the Minutemen were truly dedicated to fighting immigration at a point where immigration's about to be decided, they would be right here in the mix. The fact that the Minutemen are no longer in the picture, the fact that the Minutemen messaged hatred, the fact that the Minutemen can't be found to have a voice and dissipated at a time when immigration is so crucial and things on the border are happening all the time, is a clear indication that they never belonged to the Republican Party to begin with. They came out of nowhere and created this whole messaging of hatred. And this messaging hurt the Republican Party in the eyes of Hispanics. So good job on all those behind-the-scene players that created that Minutemen group. But I'm very happy to say they're gone. They're not anywhere, are they? Where are they? Who knows? Who cares? Because their message was one of hatred, and their message was one that did not belong to the Republican Party. They were not part of the party. They were just fabricated to bring down the image of the Republican Party in the eyes of those listening and watching and believing a very liberal left media that we have. And that's why programs like this are springing up all over America. And that's why we have to continue to support radio and television that, in fact, share a message of hope for this country. And so I want to thank you for tuning in today for today's show, and to let you know that the segments that are coming up are recorded segments of guests that I've had on the show that kind of exemplify the message of today, which is messaging is important and getting information out to the people is important, because information is power. And I hope that you are nodding your head and saying, well, that explains this and that explains that, and that you feel empowered to go out and make a great decision that is going to continue to make this country great. Because when you listen to the overall programming, this is about building a stronger America, and we need everybody to do that. And we all love being who we are and being able to embrace the diversity in this nation. And that embracing only could have happened if the American principles would have been exactly they were by the Founding Fathers, which exercises tolerance, and by God, which exercises loving thy neighbor. So you put those two together and you have just a great nation of principles and traditions that we don't want to lose. And so to continue to thrive as a nation of liberties and freedoms, we have to make sure that we preserve that. And so we have to put a stop to Obama, who is taking us away from that, and this dark path that seems to be embracing socialism and communism, because so many people in America, so many of your grandparents and great-grandparents escaped that and don't want to go back there. And we don't want to go there. So tune in. We're going to go to some commercial breaks, and when we get back from these commercial breaks, we're going to go right to our programming for today. You've been listening to Deb Gordills.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordills is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0, from Latinos to Latinos. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordills is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois, with over 20,000 copies of each edition. El Sueño Americano is available in all versions: El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics.
Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line with Deb Gordills. Today we have a few guests on our show. Number one is John Guevara. He is the county board member in the 19th district in Winnebago County. And he's going to come on the show and talk a little bit politics with us here and share a little bit about what he's doing. And he's also seeking to be slated to run for the 67th House District seat. And we'll talk about that too. So I want to welcome you today to The Bottom Line. We're on every day, Monday through Friday, from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. here on WPJX Radio, 1500 AM. So, you know, I want to just touch base on a little local politics and news. Yesterday when I came home, I received a huge newspaper, 12, 15 pages long, and it was put out by the Republican Fund for Progress and Jobs. When I get John on the phone, I'll find out if he got it, but it was 12 pages of just slamming Bruce Rauner. It was unbelievable. No doubt the union was behind putting that paper out. And I'll talk a little bit about that with John and get his own thoughts and ideas. Locally here in Chicago, there is a baseball stadium that's being built with the help of Wrigley Field on an empty lot. For those of you who go to Cub games, you may have seen it. It's across from the McDonald's once you get off Addison Avenue on 94 and you start heading east towards Wrigley Field. They're thinking about they're going to build that stadium there. It's going to be a baseball stadium for high school baseball teams. I heard initially that it was just for Lane Tech High School, but I know that Gordon Tech High School, which is the private co-ed private school, just a block away from the stadium, is asking for access to have that as a home stadium as well. And it would make sense that Lakeview High School, which is 5 blocks from Wrigley Field and maybe 10 blocks from the stadium, would also be asking to get dibs in there. So we'll see how that plays itself out. It would probably be a good gesture by the Cubs at Wrigley Field to let it be a home stadium for all the local high schools, public and private. So also, speaking of Lakeview, I'm class of 78, loved my time at Lakeview High School. It's celebrating its 140th year. 140 years old is Lakeview High School. Imagine if that became a voting block of all the graduates and seniors. So, we had talked last week a little bit about House District 34 and the fact that there was the ballots were sent out for absentee ballots and early voting, and they were missing the Republican candidate Fatima Macklin, who's a strong Black American conservative. It was missing her name on that primary. The Board of Elections has done this before. This is so typical of them. They let it go. Hopefully you don't catch it, and then they get away with bringing, skewed voting results in. But the Board of Selections apologized to Fatima, and they said they're going to correct the problem. My comment to that is, yeah, right. Okay, and Chris Christie was here yesterday. The only gubernatorial team that went to go and see him was Rodriguez and Brady. So it was interesting that the other three stayed out. Of course, they have their own issues. Rauner with this big anti-Rauner campaign kicking off on Monday. Now this newspaper. And then also in addition to that, you had the Rutherford scandal. So that's another thing that they have to deal with. So we'll talk more about that and some interesting activity happening with the Sueño Americano newspaper. The sales department personnel reported that they had been getting phone calls from Mazda car dealerships. Apparently, their phone number has been given out as interested buyers in Mazda vehicles. So, we're sorry to hear that El Sueño Americano sales department has to go through that, but apparently that's good news. There must be aggravating some Democrats who decided they're going to give their phone number out. So kudos to El Sueño Americano sales department for being good sports about this. All right, so now I'd like to bring on the show John Guevara. John Guevara, are you there?
Yes, Deb, I'm here.
Thank you, John. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Great. And tell me what's going on out there. You're a county board member in Winnebago County. How's Winnebago County doing?
We've been struggling for a long time, especially with the recession. Unemployment is we're third from the bottom for major metropolitan areas in the state, which is better than being at the bottom. But we'd like to bring that number up. We're working on the county board to grow the economy. We've done a help fund a Woodward expansion out here, which is a major aerospace company. We've done plenty of good work in the I-39 corridor and preparing that for business, and there are a few other opportunities that should come up this year that will show an increase in jobs. Another big problem, of course, has been crime, especially violent crime along the Kishwaukee corridor. That made I think it was number 3 in the FBI's most violent crime neighborhoods in the country. Here in Rockford, Illinois.
That's crazy.
The worst neighborhood was, of course, in Chicago, and then Rockford was 2 short spaces right behind it. And so what we've done in the last 2 years, since I've been the public safety chairman on the county board, is hire 18 additional deputies. That's almost 20% increase to our public safety staff to help with policing, specifically targeted towards helping the city of Rockford in hotspots and fighting gang crime. And so those are our big problems, and we're working very hard to fight them.
Yeah, John, our radio show is heard in northern Illinois and southeast Wisconsin. So, of course, many of the people who are listening to the show live in the Winnebago County area. Can you give me the demographics for those people who are not in the Winnebago County area? Where's Winnebago County?
Winnebago County is about, you've got Lake County, you've got... You got Kane County, and then McHenry, and then Boone County, and then Winnebago. So we're about 90 minutes from the city, depending on traffic. It'd be nice to have a train coming from Rockford over there. We've been working on that for for almost 20 years now, to try and make that happen. But
why do you think there is no train route to Rockford? I always thought that was really weird because, my parents had bought a house in Cherry Valley. And so I said, well, we could take the train up to go see you. And I thought, we can't. What? We had to be almost an hour in the opposite direction to even get anywhere near the area. Why is it so isolated?
There's a number of thought processes there. Part of it is ensuring that you have a dedicated rail line and the cost of putting new rail down. And so they've been studying and restudying, given the almost exponential growth through the middle 2000s, early and middle 2000s, and even before that in the 90s, throughout the collar counties. It was hard to be able to plot what a line would look like because you didn't know where the development was going to be. So that was part of the difficulty originally. Then you had to try and decide, make deals with the existing railways to try and come up with something. They're still working on it. We're hoping to have, before the end of my term, which will be in 2016, to have an answer one way or the other.
Okay. And, John Guevara, you're a good Republican. Tell me a little bit about the Republican Party in Rockford. You just elected the first Hispanic to a House seat in the Rockford area there in, is it Loves Park or McChesney Park?
Loves Park, McChesney Park. It's the suburbs of the north suburbs of Rockford, part of Cherry Valley Township. It wraps down into a little bit of East Rockford and North Rockford. John Cabello is our representative. He is a police officer. He's on leave currently, and that's a discussion that we're still having with the city. But he is a remarkable representative, a solid Republican, and a good conservative. And he was, when he decided to run, he was a colleague of mine on the county board. We've been good friends for a number of years, and supported him 100%. And he's done very good work across the aisle in trying to be able to, with a supermajority of Democrats in Springfield, still accomplish things for the district and accomplish things for the state of Illinois, and that's remarkable.
Yeah, and so he's in the 66 House District, and you're looking to be slated by the Republican Party up there in Rockford to run in the 67th House District. Tell me why nobody ran for the primary seat there.
Initially, when you look at the population demographic, it's about 35% minority, more heavily African American than it is Latino, and that's by population. When you look at the overall voter demographic, it's about 60-40 Democrat to Republican, and when you look at the precincts that were won by the Republican who opposed Chuck in 2010, those precincts were drawn out of the new district. So any precinct that Robert Brokish won or finished within 5% of, those precincts were drawn out. Those neighborhoods were drawn out. But in doing an analysis of the actual vote turnout in the new district, which includes parts of Dave Winter's district, which is now John Cabello's district, the 68th, and it also includes parts of the 69th, which is Joe Sosnowski's district. The vote totals actually narrow from 2010 to today. So the existing map, if you look at the vote totals, narrow by about 4%. So it goes from 63-37 to 59-41, and that's about 3,000 votes differential. So what you need are a swing of 1,501 votes. And in that district, given a term election, an off year, an opportunity for Republicans to take back the governor's mansion, this is a prime opportunity for Republicans. It was just a lot of negatives looking at it initially, and the more that I considered it, the more that I thought, I have 2 years left on my county board term. It took a while for me to get there, and then for me to decide, would a Republican be the best representative for this district? And whether or not a Republican is, I'm Republican, and there's no getting around that, and that's good. So, having come to that decision, with an exploratory committee and a number of folks in and around this area, we then decided to seek the slate from the local Republican Party.
Okay, John Guevara, talk to me a little bit. You're a member of the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly. Tell me about your involvement in that organization. How long have you been a member, and where's that organization been, and where's it going?
We've been involved since 2003 with the local Winnebago County chapter. Gloria Cadilla was the chairman at that time.
Right, Gloria is going to be on my show in the next segment.
Oh, excellent. She was our chairman then. Had been involved in her campaign against Chuck Jefferson initially, and now I'm definitely and still working very closely with Gloria even to this day. But that's how the chapter got started. We renewed our charter in 2009 under Rafael Rivadeneira's leadership, and worked very hard to be able to maintain the charter. And
I know Rafael. He's a nice guy, good guy.
Yeah, and to grow the local chapter, and to work with our friend Lee Ariano in Lee County to the south to kind of grow a regional chapter, working with the Cruzes in Rochelle and some other things.
Okay, so if people are interested, there's how many chapters? There's 8 chapters of the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly. There's 8 chapters, and one's in Winnebago?
Yes.
And where are the other 7?
The others are in DuPage, Kane, Cook County, Southern Illinois, Sauk Valley, and Grundy County.
Okay. Can you say those again a little slower?
You have the Kane County chapter, the DuPage County chapter, the Cook County chapter, the Southern Illinois chapter, the Sauk Valley chapter, and the Grundy County chapter.
Okay, and if people wanted to get in touch with somebody so that they can create a chapter in Zion or Antioch or anywhere in northern Illinois where this show is being heard, how would they get in touch with you?
I can be reached. My email is John, JOHN.M, as in Michael, .Guevara, it's GUE, B as in Victory, ARA, @gmail.com. My phone number is 815-978-8171. 978-8171. Okay, so our listening audience can call John Guevara if they're interested in starting a chapter for the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly. He's got 10 years experience in being able to give you the quick 3 steps on how to start that. And, we're excited that we have another Latino who is a chairman out there, county board member in Winnebago County. And wouldn't that be great to have 2 of you and John Cabello? You could be the second elected Hispanic to the State House. We definitely need to flip that House. How many seats do we need to take control of the House in Springfield for House districts? Is it 9 seats? I believe that it is 9. It may be more depending on a couple of other factors. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that number is 9.
Okay. Well, we need to flip the House. We need people to start voting Republican. We need you to support John Guevara in the House District 67 out there in Winnebago County. John, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you come again and talk to us on numerous other topics. We'd love to have you, and we'll stay in touch with your race and what's going on, and make sure you let us all know. We'll have you on the show on March 19th to kick off your campaign after you're slated by the Republican Party.
Great. Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it. Vote for Bruce Rauner.
There you go. We didn't even get a chance to talk about all our gubernatorial candidates. So you heard it right there from John Guevara. He said to vote for Bruce Rauner. All right, honey. You take care, and we will chat again. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Deb.
And we'll be right back after these commercials. You've been listening to WPJX, 1500 AM. This is Deb Gordills. Thank you for being on the bottom line. Stay with me. We'll be right back after these commercials.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordills is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0. From Latinos to Latinos. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordiels is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies of each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics.
Hello, welcome to The Bottom Line. This is Deb Gordiels. I'm glad you came back to listen to more of our segments here today. You can catch us every day, Monday through Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. It's all talk, all politics, between 5 and 6 o'clock. So we had just finished our conversation with John Guevara. I'm glad that we had him on the show. And he did mention Gloria Cadillo. We now have Gloria Cadillo on the line. Gloria, hello.
Hi, ¿cómo estás? How are you?
Estoy muy bien. We didn't make John practice his Spanish, but maybe next time we need to put him on the front line there and dile que se tiene que hablar español.
Sí, todos nosotros.
All right. So Gloria is the former communications director of the Rockford Park District. She was also the president of the school board in Rockford School District 205. Gloria, tell us a little bit about the school district 205 there in Rockford. If you could sum up where it's been, where it's at, and where it's going, that'd be great.
Okay, ¿en español o inglés?
No, in English.
In English?
Yeah, we have our bilingual listening people here.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I started serving on the school board back in 97, and at that point, we were in the middle of a discrimination lawsuit where there was a discrimination against minority children. And at the time, I was watching, I would watch the school board meetings online, on TV rather. And I thought, you know what? They need the Hispanic voice here because they're in the middle of that. So that prompted me to get involved in politics. And actually, I was the Park District Commissioner before being hired as a staff person. And so that's when I served at the turn of the century, is what I tell people, this last century.
And you're a Republican, aren't you?
Yes.
To be Latina and Republican is very rare. I know this.
Oh, yeah. And what's interesting is a lot of people still, see that as an unusual thing, but we're going to stop that, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Tell me a little bit about the demographics of Republican versus Democrats in that Rockford area.
Well, actually, you know what? One of the things that I'm involved in right now, besides the RNHA, the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, both the Winnebago County, because this is where I live, and also at the state level, is I'm involved with another smaller group called Latinos for Political Progress. And it's it's a nonpartisan group. We're just trying to get more Latinos involved. But more often than not, we get a lot more Democrats that show up to this meeting than the Republicans. And so we really are outnumbered, but as far as Latinos and Republicans. But the few of us that are here, we're just staying on it. We just had a meeting last Saturday, and I posted a picture on my Facebook page of, because John Guevara is our chairman here locally, and we talked about some of the initiatives that we're going to be taking and have been taking locally. So,
if you were to take that Latinos for political progress, if you were to take that group and separate them between conservatives and liberals, what's your numbers?
Ooh, gosh, I don't know that I could give you that. But I mean, just with a small group, I would say seven to maybe 10 or something like that. It's hard to say.
So you would think there's about 7 conservatives to 10 liberals?
No, it's the other way around. Yeah. That's right. It's a smaller group of us, the conservatives.
Okay, so, this is really important because one of the things, and I'd love to find out the numbers on that, because one of the things I always say is that we have more conservatives in America than we have liberals.
Right.
And when it comes to Latinos, I venture to say that for every 7 out of every 10 Latinos, 7 are conservative and 3 are not. So culturally, that's the background. I mean, the social issues are important to us, you know, and what we. So it'd be great for you to take that survey to see if, in fact, this is true, and then you could get back on our show and tell us the difference. One of the biggest push by conservatives is to get conservative voters to vote for politicians and political parties that support the conservative agenda.
Right.
And so we need Latinos to vote their value.
Right.
And
you know what, Deb, I think one of the key factors is not being educated enough. In other words, we as conservatives, you know, those of us that follow politics, those of us that are involved in politics, I mean, we study a lot of these issues and we know a lot of them. But I think one of the areas that we really need to fine-tune is our message. What is, you know, how do we educate the general public, especially the Latino community, about who we are, what we representatives, our conservatives are, and Republicans are? What do we stand for? What do we believe?
Well, that's why El Sueño Americano puts out 40,000 hard copies every month.
Right.
Every month. And it is 28 pages of solid Republican news and solid 100% conservative news.
And exactly, and that's kind of where I was going, is the fact that we don't have any of that over here in Rockford. I mean, certainly we pick up everything that you all offer, you know, online and so on. And I think if we, those of us that are not in the Chicago area, that like those of us that are here in Rockford, maybe Belvedere, we have a responsibility to make sure that what you're providing via radio and news, that we continue that education of, well, rather educating the Latino community. Not only that, introducing them to what you all offer, and then just telling them, you know.
Well, you know, here's the thing. It's funny you mentioned Belvedere, because the Belvedere Republican Party has contacted El Sueño Americano newspaper, and they want to arrange someone to pick up the newspapers, 1,000 copies, and distribute them in their Latino community. Now, Aurora picks up 1,000 copies here in Chicago, and they take it out to Aurora and distribute that. Waukegan takes 3,000 copies, along with an additional Lake County 1,000 copies. So 4,000 copies are picked up in Chicago and get into Waukegan. Brighton Park, which is on the far south side, which, you know, should just be another city all by itself as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, I'm all the way over here on the north side. They take 5,000 newspapers, and their neighboring Latino community, Gage Park, takes another 2,500 papers. So El Sueño Americano has El Sueño Americano de Aurora, El Sueño Americano de Lake County, El Sueño Americano de Waukegan, and now we're getting ready to kick off 1,000 El Sueño Americano de Belvedere. So it really would require somebody twice a month driving into the city to take, you know, whatever it is, the 1,000 copies of El Sueño Americano de Rockford, and then distribute it wherever they think it's needed in Rockford. I know that we just added, we've had El Sueño Americano de Pilsen. There's 4,000 copies that go into Pilsen. You know, so Belvedere, maybe it's something the Republican Party in Rockford can work out with Belvedere. And when they do, everybody does one pickup, because isn't Belvedere just like a 20-minute ride from you?
Yeah, it is. It's very close.
Yeah.
That's an excellent idea. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll talk to John and see if we can find a way to partner with not only with Belvedere, but somehow find a way to make it happen here in the Rockford area. Because Rockford is, the third largest city in Illinois. And, you know, so we've got that opportunity. It's just a matter of making it happen.
Right, right. And it is a free publication, so anybody can see it. And listen, you know, some people say, well, it doesn't make a difference. It makes a big difference. We went from 5,000 copies every 2 weeks. So that's 10,000 copies a month to 40,000 copies a month in 1 year's time. During that 1 year's time, two significant things happened. The Chicago Tribune now produces 56 pages of an OI Spanish publication, where it used to only present 6 pages. So they added 50 pages to create a sort of their own liberal Spanish newspaper, because ours is extremely conservative, it's extremely Republican, and so that's really obvious. And the other thing that's happened is that 23% of the Latino population that votes has now lost approval of approving anything that Obama's doing. And so he's lost 23% of the Latino support as voters. That's a hard hit. That's a huge hit. And that just happened to be in the last 12, 13 months. And so I'm not saying that because El Sueño Americano's been out 13 months that that's the influence, but I venture to say it is the thing that has changed in America. El Sueño Americano's followed in a dozen states in this country. It's downloaded in the House in Washington, D.C. It's very popular out there in the Capitol. And so we can make a difference no matter where we're at.
Right, and that proves what we've been talking about for years, and since you and I have known each other, is educating the community, and you all just took the lead and jumped with something powerful, which is the print media, print and now radio. That's exactly where we all need to even take it a little step further, and as I said, sometimes our general public, especially the Latino community, they're not aware of some of the things. They hear so much from the liberal side that our message gets lost because we don't always share as many of the good news, our good news, our conservative good news. And I think if we even expanded it a little more, as I said, even here in the Rockford area, then I know we can make a powerful difference together.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that's well said, Gloria. Gloria, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly. You're a member there, correct? And a board member, secretary.
Well, actually, yeah, the board secretary for the state chapter.
Yeah, and John Guevara was talking about this organization. Where can people contact you in the Winnebago area and the Rockford area if they're interested in joining your chapter?
Well, we have a Facebook page that says Illinois RNHA. So they can just go right there. But the main thing for them to remember is to not be confused with any other chapters. Ours is our RNHA Winnebago County. So they can go right to that, and it's got all our local information, so they can check that. The other thing, too, I don't mind giving my phone number, my personal cell number.
Oh, I don't know that you'd want to do that because we recently just found out this weekend that some upset Democrats thought they'd be a little humorous and gave out the El Sueño Americano sales department phone number to a list of Mazda dealerships.
All right, well, we'll just tell everybody, go to the Facebook page.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page.
Republican National Hispanic Assembly, Winnebago County.
There you go.
They can just leave a message there, and we have a couple of administrators. John Guevara is one, and I administer it as well. And I believe there's somebody else. But as long as they leave a message and a contact information, we'll make sure we get back to them and give them updates as far as when our meetings are. For now, they can go to my webpage, just Gloria Cardenas Cudia. I'm sorry, not webpage, Facebook page, and they will see the current picture from last Saturday's meeting. So there's a lot of good stuff on the Facebook page for the RNHA as well. So.
That sounds wonderful. Gloria, now I had mentioned on the line that I received a 12-page newspaper in the mail from the Republican Fund for Progress and Jobs out of Peoria, Illinois. And did you get something like that in the mail? It was completely slamming Bruce Rauner.
Oh, no, I didn't. Well,
they distributed I mean, it got mailed. I live in Chicago. It was mailed into a Chicago address. I don't know if all of Chicago received that document, if it was just Republican Chicagoans who received it. It did come out of Peoria, Illinois, but they spent an extravagant amount of money to put a 12-page newspaper together, very colorful, with pictures. The front page shows Bruce Rauner sitting laughing with Rahm Emanuel as they're surrounded by, thousands and thousands of $100 bills. No doubt the union is probably behind this. This is not an inexpensive project. My guess is this is big union money out to discredit Bruce Rauner at a time when Dan Rutherford is handling his own problems right now. What do you think of all that in terms of the Republican gubernatorial race, all these things that are happening with 2 of the 4 candidates now?
Well, you know what? First of all, these candidates are not running for sainthood, okay?
Okay.
But here's the thing.
I don't think politicians are allowed to run for sainthood.
So be it. You're right. But here's the thing. We all know that politics is, and what do they say here? It's a blood sport in Illinois. But more importantly, look at it. Look at this. We're intelligent human beings. We can do our own homework. We can do research, and then a lot of us know that. I mean, that's the name of the game. The more you badmouth the other person and their principles or whatever, the better. But here's the deal, Deb. Isn't it important for everybody, as you know, to do their own homework? Look behind the scenes, and more importantly, look at the Republican platform. What is the Republican platform? I mean, because we know about all the empty promises that the Democrats have made here in Illinois. Estas promesas vacías, that's what they are. But the important thing for us to make sure that we always keep doing, especially those of us that are looking into this and studying the Republican politics and the platform, is to make sure that we tell the public what we have done, what we have accomplished, what we are fighting for, what we stand for. I mean, I'm pro-life. I believe in supporting the pro-life agenda. I mean, a lot of people don't realize why Planned Parenthood was founded. I mean, we know that where are these facilities? They're in the urban areas because the whole purpose of Planned Parenthood is to eliminate the poor and eliminate people of color. If they will study the history of Planned Parenthood, they will discover that.
And Planned Parenthood is supported by President Obama and the Democrats. The Democratic Party supports Planned Parenthood. The Democratic Party give them money. They support them. They vote for them. So, in short, they're voting to destroy Latinos and all other babies of color.
People of color. But we really need to take it a step further, because if it is the president, and we know that it's the president, and
this is the most pro-abortion president ever in the history. I mean, who the heck, what president would even, in his own brain, even think about getting up and saying anything about supporting an organization that kills babies? He's not even smart enough to not say anything if he believes in abortion.
But here's the fact as well. I mean, whether we, like our president's policies or not, bottom line is, as I said, I am pro-life, but I am forced to pay for these because my tax dollars are paying for Planned Parenthood's support. Millions of dollars, and that hurts my heart, and it hurts my principles. And the other thing, too, one of the reasons I became a Republican back in the 1980s is when I discovered that it was the Republicans who initiated the abolishment of slavery. I mean, it's like just something as simple as that little bit of information, many Hispanics don't know that.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to have to go to commercial break, and I want to keep you on for the next radio show, Gloria. On that note, the abolishment of slavery, yes, you're right. The Republicans are the ones that initiated the abolishment of slavery. And today is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Happy birthday, Abe.
Absolutely. Happy birthday. Feliz cumpleaños.
That's right. And when on the commercial break, I'll play Mañanitas for him.
All right.
Okay, so let's go to these commercials. This is Deb Gordills with Gloria Cadillo on the radio right now. And this is the bottom line. WPJX. You're listening on 1500 AM. We'll be right back after these commercials.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0. From Latinos to Latinos. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies of each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics.
Hello and welcome back to The Bottom Line. This is Deb Gordills, and you're listening here on WPJX 1500 AM. On my guest today on the show is Gloria Cadillo. You heard from John Guevara earlier, and we just last segment we talked about Abraham Lincoln's birthday. So tonight in Chicago, for those of you who can drive into the city at 3832 North Lincoln Avenue, how apropos, right? On Lincoln Avenue, we're going to be celebrating Lincoln's birthday at the Big Bricks Upper Room, 3832 North Lincoln Avenue from 6 to 8 p.m. So come and get some free cake and come and say hello, and we'll all be there in celebration of Abraham Lincoln. And the Republican Party, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Martin Luther King was a Republican. And you had mentioned, Gloria, in the last segment that that the Republican Party were the ones who started the abolition of slavery. I want to remind you that it's a known fact that the Democrat Party began the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Id you know that?
That's right. I did.
And so,
as a matter of fact, one of those interesting. How many of your listeners here saw the movie 42, the story of Jackie Robinson? I mean, the baseball player. Okay, when he became a baseball player, he was brought in, and he was the first black ball player in the National Leagues, if you remember, in the leagues, okay, major leagues. But what a lot of people don't know is that Branch Rickey, who was, I believe, the owner of the Dodgers, I think it was Brooklyn Dodgers back then, he is a Republican, a conservative, and a lot of people don't know that. Those are some of the good news that we offer the conservatives, Republicans, to the general public, and they don't know this. So Jackie Robinson, the first African-American baseball player here in the United States, was brought on by Branch Rickey. I would encourage everybody to go watch the movie, or, it's on DVD now.
Here just goes back. It always, I think propaganda and the liberal media are unbelievably strong in America. When you have black Americans voting Democrats, black Americans voting Democrats, when Martin Luther King was a conservative Republican.
That's right.
When the Republican Party abolished slavery, when the Democrats created the Ku Klux Klan, how the heck can you be a real black man or woman in America and vote Democrat? I will never know. I will never understand that. I don't get it. I think they must not know. I think a political card needs to be made with those 3 points I just made. Those 3 facts.
Exactly.
And then you tell them, now I dare you to vote Democrat. I dare you to even think about it, because you got Martin Luther King rolling in his grave, Abraham Lincoln. And of course you have the Dixie Democrats dancing. This is crazy. This is an outrage. It's insane, and it's lack of information. Same thing. Recently we had a young man, I don't know if you know him, Felipe Cortez. He wrote an article in El Sueño Americano, this last edition, on page 23, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And it says, the title of it is, we've reached the mark of 2 million deportations under Obama. Mm-hmm. President Obama is a Democrat. You must say no, Obama, not vote for the Democrat Party, because he and his Democrat friends, Clinton and all the rest of them, are responsible for the 2 million people being deported out of the United States. That's more than the last 4 or 5 presidents of America put together. How can you be of a Latino and vote for this kind of administration, this kind of political party. The Democrats are responsible for the killing of 47,000 aborted babies in Illinois alone.
Well, and if you take it a step further,
that's a year.
Talked about the abolition of slavery and also Planned Parenthood when it was founded and why it continues. One of the things that I always tell people, especially when they find out I'm a Republican and being a Latina, is the message. I mean, it's even biblical. It's better to light a candle than it is to curse the darkness. And so I think what we're doing, or at least trying to do, is to light that candle by sharing actual facts. You know, recently the president has been heard and has been recorded and aired that he says, I have a pen and I have a phone, right? That he can make these changes. Well, if our leaders in Washington, whether Democrat or Republican or whatever, when it comes to immigration reform, the president is held in so high esteem by the Latino community because they say, you know, they take care of us, Hispanics and all of that. Well, when you hear him say that, it's like, you know what, if you really wanted to do something about immigration reform, you could have done something, but he doesn't do it, and for whatever reason, but yet everybody else that's on the other side follows him, whereas we're trying to at least, secure the borders, do those things, do it in step, do it right, because there is that trust factor that is missing, and it's like, but I think we as Republicans, I know we're looking at different initiatives and trying to figure this issue out, but if we don't have that support on both sides, it ain't going to happen.
Well, look, it's real basic, it's real easy, and this is what I say. Either you believe in God or you don't.
Right.
And if you believe in God, you know that God is the author of life. He decides where life will come and where life will end. He brings life forward from the womb of a woman. Who are we to be carving out anything of God's creation? If you believe in God and you truly think that that's the power, then you cannot vote Democratic. It's almost sacrilegious to vote for the Democrats, given that they're doing everything they can to destroy life, which God begins, and He alone is in charge of that. Two, to remove anything religious from America, whether it's the commandments over the courthouse walls or it's a silent moment of prayer anywhere, or in God we trust, where we have our currency. I'll tell you, the day after they remove that from the currency, the whole currency will collapse. The Federal Reserve will collapse. I'm thinking that is the only thing that's even keeping the dollar where it's at is what it represents. People need to really make a decision. I don't know about anybody else. I fear God more than I fear the damn Democrats and Obama. So my show is not politically correct. My show tries to be religiously correct. And that's all that I need to do. And I'll tell you, it is extremely important. And I think that's what happened to Martha Sotomayor. She's on the front page of El Sueño Americano newspaper. You heard what she did in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So, think about it. Here, I remember when she was, when Obama said he was going to appoint Sotomayor, everybody was freaking out saying she's a liberal, maybe she's a lesbian. My God, we can't vote for this. We don't care if she's Boricua and Latina because she's bad. She's for abortion. She supports abortion. Everybody was really freaking out about her appointment.
Yeah.
And then here the Colorado nuns file in Colorado court saying, we're Catholic nuns and we don't believe in supporting birth control, contraceptives, or abortion money to anybody. It's against our religion. And the Colorado courts pretty much said, too bad.
Yeah.
We don't care who you are, you're going to have to pay for it. And so they filed an appeal. Well, guess whose lap that appeal fell on? It was Sonia Sotomayor. So everybody was thinking Sonia Sotomayor has to make this decision, and lo and behold, she gave the nuns an emergency injunction.
That's right.
And she told them, I'm Catholic. And so when push comes to shove, I think I think Sonia came to Sotomayor, the Supreme Court Justice, came to a position where she said, one day I'm going to stand in front of my Creator, and He's going to ask me to be accountable for what I did here.
Yep.
And I hope that when that time comes, that you could say to Him, I did everything to preserve life that you gave. I did everything.
Exactly what it actually, that applies to all of us, as you're saying. It applies to all of us.
Yes. We have to stand before God and say, Dear Lord, I did everything I could to preserve life, the life that you decide on. I did everything I could to make sure that you were present in our lives, in the lives of others, in our home, in our country. I want to be able to say that. Because I need all the brownie points I can get. I don't know about anybody else out there.
You know what else? I'm not a lawyer, but I mean I've watched enough law shows like Judy, Judge Judy, where how often have we heard ignorance of the law doesn't count?
Yeah.
Well, when we're in front of our Maker and we tell him, well, gee, I voted a certain way because I didn't know. He'll say, well, wait a minute. Didn't you get newspapers? Don't you have the Internet? And you didn't know how to vote, and you voted for people that did things against my will? So, ignorance of the law, ignorance of the Bible is not going to make a difference either. So. Yeah,
well, somebody once said, if you're too busy to take time out for God, then you're busier than He ever intended.
And I never heard that one, but that's a good one.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook page, and I posted on my Facebook page, and I thought, wow, there's something. So, you gotta, I try to say my prayers at night. I still try to say my prayers with my daughters, even though they're in middle, junior high now. It's just important to keep God close, because there's so many things happening in our society, so many things happening in the world today that I can't imagine if you don't have God, where do you go? Where do you go when things are bad, when things are hard, when things go wrong, when you experience loss and hardship, when you just, are making bad decisions after one another and you need to be freed up from that? Where do you go? It always puzzles me, people who don't get that God is just started standing there watching them going, hello.
That's right.
I'm over here. So, on the show, we talk politics and religion. I know people say it doesn't mix, but it mixes just right for me. It's like the perfect dose of what I need. And I really think that we will have an absolute anarchy, chaos in the political realm, in our society, if we remove the Christian pillars that are up there to make sure that we continue to walk the straight and narrow. I think that what happens is that you have this sort of lawlessness that happens when you make that separation of church and state to the degree where you have no faith.
Exactly. Well, and I believe if there are some of your listeners that don't believe in God and just kind of cannot connect with this, all of us get this gut feeling about things, and so certainly that's our conscience, or maybe it's the Holy Spirit. All of us, especially those of us that are believers, we know where our source is. And to your point, I mean, unless we have something a little bit higher or a ton higher than the rest of us, it's like, where are we going to get that peace? Where are we going to get that piece of and prosperity? I guess, if you take it back to politics, when we talk about prosperity, one of the things I always ask people who question me about my conservative values, the first thing is that I like to mention is that, first of all, who is responsible for the legacy that you are leaving your children? I mean, is it the government? Or is it yourself? Or is it you and God or whatever? So it's like when you start looking at that personal responsibility, it's like, yeah, but at least I'm not alone because I have a higher power to work with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the motivating factor. I look at decisions that are made, and decisions that do away with the church are not allowed. I think we look at times before America was established on the Christian principles that it is. We look at the society and the world and the persecution that occurred and how many people died because it was better to die with God than to die without Him, and denouncing Him. I mean, it's just really a real trying time, I think, in our society right now. And we need to hold truth to the Constitution that was founded on Christian principles, to America that was founded by the freedom of religion, and move forward from there. And so I think we have to sort of take the separation of church and state with a grain of salt and do what's right. I mean, we're just asking people to vote for the right reasons and to do what's right. And I think that when you do that, you're going to come up with the positive results that's good for ourselves and the entire community around us.
Exactly, and it starts really with our families. You know, after God, it's our families. I mean, when you think about it, a mom and a dad or a brother or a sister, I mean, it's like we pray for our kids all the time. We pray for each other, and it's like if that is what's going to keep us going, so be it. But on the other hand, we also need to know what it's all about here, especially those of us that read the Bible and study the Bible. And it's like how it really is connected with politics when you think about it.
Absolutely. It is about religion. It is about politics. And I know that some people say there was a survey that talked about who's the most charitable group of people in the world. Like, who gives the most money to the poor? And they say it's conservatives who have a religious reason. Yep. Religious backing, that they give 30% of their income to nonprofits and charitable causes all the time. And you know what? We're going to be right back, and we'll talk a little bit more about that charity. Hopefully you'll stick around, Gloria. I got to go to commercial break now. I don't want to run late like I did the last time. My producer will get all over us. So you've been listening to The Bottom Line here, WPJX 1500 AM. Gloria Cadilla is my guest today, and stay tuned. We'll be right back after more of these commercials. Bye.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0, from Latinos to Latinos. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordios is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois, with over 20,000 copies of each edition. El Sueño Americano is available in all versions: El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics.